Going on to the roll call. President Fish.
Here.
Vice President Pellegrino. Here. Treasurer Wu.
Here.
Secretary Wadsworth.
Here.
Chief Justice Tabor. Not here. College Counsel. Director of Community Outreach. Director of PR. Senator DeHaab. Senator Rogers. Senator Self. Pro Tem Fees. Senator Argenio. Not here. Senator Rosamilia. Our advisor. CFB. Wildcat Media. The Factory Times. Not here. Web. Wildcat Esports. SAC and Res Life are not here. And then Senator Schnorr is not on the agenda. He's here. And Senator Totino is also not on the agenda, but is here. Going on to announcements. We have no announcements. And our guest speakers. We do have a guest speaker. If you'd like to come to the mic. Yes. Oh, apologies. That was my mistake. On to the approval of minutes of December 1st, 2022. Do we have any discussion for these minutes? Pro Tem Fees.
I'd like to make a motion to skip all reports.
Skip all reports. Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Self. Do we have any discussion for this motion? All right, seeing none, we'll be going on to voting. All those in favor? All those who approve? All those who oppose? And all those who abstain? With that, that passes 7-1-0. Continuing on from, apologies, 6-1-0. Going on from there, all reports will be skipped. Now moving back on to the approval of minutes. Wildcat Esports.
Motion to move bill number 2223-15 to after guest speaker due to time constraints. I yield.
After guest speakers. Do we have a second? Seconded by Pro Tem Fees. Do we have any discussion for this motion? Wildcat Esports.
I have prior obligations for a meeting at 1 o'clock. That's why I want this bill to be moved after guest speaker. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion? Senator Rosamilia.
Point of inquiry, would that fall under, would it be automatically put under new old business?
It would be put right after guest speakers.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Yes, CFB.
Try and make a motion to push, was it open forum, I guess, right after guest speaker, just to get any, if anything has, or if anyone has anything to say in open forum, because I think it might be a longer meeting today.
We are currently in a motion, so if you'd like to make that.
After. Okay, sorry. Right. Oh, okay.
No,
my
you're
bad.
good.
You're good. Okay.
Is there any other discussion? And just a reminder, we're in the motion to push Bill 2223-15 right after guest speakers. Seeing none with that, we'll be going on to voting. All those who approve, all those who oppose, and all those who abstain. That passes 7-0-0. Going on from there, onto the approval of minutes. Do we have any other discussion? Logan?
Motion to move Bill 2223-16 to after new business.
After new business. Do we have a second? Seconded by Pro Tem Fees. Do we have any discussion? Senator Self.
I made this motion just so we can get through everything else, and then we'll have all the time we need to discuss that bill more in depth. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion? Senator Rosamilia.
Point of clarification, is there a bill number 16?
Yes, correct. 2223-16 would be what we're moving right after new business. Do we have any further discussion? Well,
I think I know why Senator Rosamilia is confused. So the first bill that you'll see in the agenda, it's labeled 2223-15. That's just a typo. That's supposed to be 16. Because there's two 15s in there. It's the first one that you'll see when scrolling through. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion? All right. Seeing none with that, we'll be going on to the approval of minutes. All those who approve? All those who oppose? And all those who abstain? With that, these minutes pass 7-0-0. That concludes approval of minutes. And going back on to guest speakers.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate. It's great to see government in motion, and it's great to observe that. And thank you for accommodating me here today. I know it took a lot of adjustments here, so I appreciate that. My name's Matt Putnam, and if you don't know me, I'm Director of Facilities at Poly here. And I wanted to just be in touch with you and have you provide some feedback to me that I can bring back to my team and try to improve your experience here at SUNY Poly. So the floor is open. It's for discussions. It's for, I know your government has been working with me quite hand in hand as to telling me what your concerns are. And we're doing the best we can with our team to accommodate those, make it a safe environment for all of you. So this is open. I want to hear what you have to say. Unfortunately, I am limited on time, so if there's more to that, get that information to me or to Megan, to Jay, and we will, we'll work on it over the winter time also to make sure that you're happy with your experience here at SUNY Poly. So, yeah. So.
Do we have anything for our guest speaker? Senator Rogers.
So I guess I'm going to keep this brief because I'm sure you've heard this ad nauseum already.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the lights on campus, I know there was an effort during the beginning of the semester to work on ones outside of Adirondack. I was told that was actually initially supposed to be started around the summer area or a little bit earlier. Is there, I don't want to sound like, but I just want to know if there's like a reason for the delay in that sort of effort.
Okay, so there are lots of lights around Adirondack. So what area in particular? I know we did some work to replace some pedestrian lighting, the walkway lighting there. We had to accommodate, and we had to dig up the conduit in there. There was a break in its direct burial line there, and we did repair that, and I believe that's up functioning right now. So other areas that you're concerned about?
I'm mostly referring to the timing of that. When I had asked around during when I had noticed the work being done, I was told that they had, at least some residential life staff had been informed that this would be happening a bit earlier in the semester, and I was just curious if there was like a cause for a delay in that, or
You
if
mean
it was just
when,
the regular
as opposed to when we did it?
yeah, or if there was just a
Okay.
miscommunication on like the timing.
Oh, there's
that was
also, we
happening.
have to hire a contractor. We had to hire a contractor to get that in, and the contract, of course, takes some time too. It took a little bit longer, I think, than we expected. So, yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Do we have any further questions or concerns? Webb.
Two-part. One is a student living at 80K. Just for when addressing the light situation, it's just the lights on the walkway towards the bridge from between the main area in the campus and the 80K res life area. Those lights seem to go out later at night, and I don't know if that's to do with what you were fixing before, if that's further issues with that, or it seems it could just be errors with the bulbs in there because they tend to blink quite a bit before they shut
Oh,
off.
it's good to know, because a lot of these are metal halide lights, and when they
Yeah.
start to get older, the structure, the infrastructure within the light itself, the bulb will tend to fail
Yeah.
over time. And so you'll see some lights that may work during the day, or during early evening, I should say, and then they'll go out later at night.
Yeah, that's what I've been
So-
noticing, and that's what I was wondering too with those certain light bulbs.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And
with
we
them
have
wearing
been
out.
actively replacing metal halide, which are high energy draw bulbs also, and trying to replace those with LEDs, which have not only a high energy efficiency, but also a longer lifespan also. And they have better light control, because a lot of metal halides you'll see the kind of the yellowish brown tint to it, versus LEDs have that cooler color. It's more bright, more visual, right? So,
And
yeah.
my secondary question was more just as for Webb with our events, just to make sure we can get space ahead of time. Is it okay with facilities, and who would be the better person to contact with to book those spaces ahead of time over break? before having the reports of what to set up exactly yet, and sending those to you after they've happened, and as well to the CSI office so they can be altered, because we can't edit that section afterward until they push it back to us.
So let me, to clarify, are we looking at more of the event setup?
The event setup
process?
would not be
Okay.
fully confirmed on what like facilities would be told when the point of booking it, to just like have that clarification. Who would you say would be the better person to keep in that contact loop from facilities? If that would be you or Eric, or
Eric is, Eric's in tune with what's happening here. However, that should also go through, does that go through you, Megan? Starts in your office, and then that comes back to the events committee and the processing in there. When you have events, we prefer to have a 2-week notification on that so we can plan on those accordingly. So, you know, if that's not happening, or if that is happening, I should say, and we're still not getting things set up in time for you.
oh no, that wasn't the issue. I was
Okay.
just asking for if you would prefer us to, along with CSI, notify either you or Eric, because when over break we're trying to make sure that we can get a lot of those first 2 months booked ahead of time. We might not have all of the reports for setup in yet, but just so they can fill out the calendar for keyware to make sure we're notified that we can have those spaces
Okay.
booked in those calendars. If afterward, it would be better to keep either you or Eric in the loop to know, like, oh, but we don't have the report yet, but it'll come at this time, which would still be ahead
So
of time.
it would be
case they see
scheduled,
that,
the event
yeah.
would be scheduled, but you don't know what the setup would be for that event?
Yes.
Okay, okay. And then something like a diagram for that?
Yep.
You can give that to Eric, and I would also copy and make sure Megan has it too.
Yeah, they
So-
would always be copied in
Yeah,
our
and
messages.
that would be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Because it's important for them to get the plan as to the resources is what's needed for that setup also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's great, yeah, thanks. Yep.
Senator Rosamilia.
I know this is a little bit of a different topic, but I did notice when it gets a little like windy outside, the taller lights start to wiggle, and like you can hear like cracking sounds. Like I think they wiggle like just like a little bit like this.
Yeah.
Are they supposed to naturally do that, or like is that fine if they wiggle
Poles are
just a little
supposed
bit? I mean?
to flex in the wind, of course. They're designed for wind loads. The cracking you might hear is just it might be just the finishing on that pole. And some of them are rusted too, so that rust might, be cracking or breaking in some of the structure, the electromagnetic, so to speak, structure between the particles there, so to speak. But the cracking itself, unless it's something happening, do you know in particular where this is?
Particularly when I pass by the field house.
Okay.
Lights along the parking lot.
So they're newer light poles, it sounds like, or is it on the walkway from here to the field house?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, those are newer light poles there too.
Okay.
So it's a visual thing, but it's not a structural. It should not have a structural problem with that.
Okay.
When
Thank
it
you.
moves. Yep.
Pro Tem Fees.
I work really closely with a lot of our student wellness offices. The Office of Accessibilities is one of them. I had actually just heard, I think it was yesterday, someone reported it to me, that the accessibility doors in Donovan Hall are very, very slow to open. I want to say there's an ADA compliance rule. Has that been something that's been looked at
It has.
recently?
I believe it's 10 seconds
Yes.
for them to open.
Yes.
And I think we tested those recently also, and they seem to fall within that guideline.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Our advisor.
Yeah, it's actually as part of the, I don't know if you're familiar with the Wilcox donation in Kinsella Hall. It's a large project that we're doing, and we're starting to do programming meetings on that now. So this is, but I'm glad to be here, and I can take a few more questions. I've got a representative sitting in for me now, so, yep.
Senator Schnorr.
Wildcat Drive between Donovan Hall and the field house, also including parking lot N, there's about 9 lights out, which causes like a very long dark walkway, and I've noticed people taking out flashlights to walk along the path there. I'm just
On
wondering,
Wildcat? Right here? Right? On
Yeah.
Wildcat Drive, okay.
in between like the end of Donovan where there's the handicap parking lot.
The north side of Donovan
Yes.
there, okay, yeah.
And the Wildcat Fieldhouse, the intersection that goes over to the back of Campus Center, there's 4 lights out along
the actual drive, and then that parking lot N is completely unlit. The 3 lights in the
Okay.
parking lot and the one on the side of Donovan are out. And I've noticed this all semester, and I'm just wondering if there's any.
I wasn't aware of that. I think I drove through there several times at night. I didn't notice that myself, so I'll take a look at it tonight.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for letting me know about that. Yeah.
Walcott Media.
Hey, so I've been around the campus center working with Aramark, and at the dishwasher area, there are sections where the drywall is peeling and the ceiling is green and the floor is turned black.
Yeah, we're aware of that. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we are planning to do something over the summer or winter break to get that, because the machine is shut down at that point.
All right.
So it's more, the ceiling in there is a mold resistant ceiling, and so it's more of the failure of that. There's not mold in there per se, because we did test that for mold and it's not there. It's more about the visuals of that. It's a very damp area, and the drywall is starting to peel away also. So that needs to be repaired in there, and we're aware of that. Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Walcott Esports.
Anybody have any more questions? I apologize, but I do want to get to the bill before I have to go for a meeting.
Last chance.
All right. We have no more questions. Then
Okay. Then
our president.
I want to finish by saying this would be a great forum for me to come to, like, every month. I think it would be, it's good feedback, and sometimes I don't get I get a lot of information from a lot of people, and so this is, you guys are key in order to provide that information to me also. So another resource is always great to have, and so I think if there's any questions that you can have to me, and we'll try to set that up on a monthly basis or so. That would be great. Okay. Great. Okay.
All right.
Thank you all. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Matt. All right. Seeing with that, we'll be going on to Bill 2122-15. So, the assigned senator is Senator D'Argenio, and since he is not here, Pro Tem Fees.
Bill number 2223-15.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Rosamilia.
The purpose of this bill is to amend the policies and procedures of Wildcat Esports.
Do we have any discussion? Wildcat Esports.
I apologize on this formatting. The formatting of justifications is a little bit off. But besides that point, so 2 things. One, we presented this a little bit. We presented a similar thing earlier in the semester, about maybe November, October, and it was to have kind of like a safety cap for players in Wildcat Esports, and there was discussions to go into policy committee to discuss to clean it up a bit, and just to discuss more of a cleaner implementation. Unfortunately, the semester kind of went away from me, and I nor my officers did not really have time to go to policy committee, and also time constraints. So we actually took a trip to Utica University and to their esports program to see how their esports program is ran and how they do their GPA requirements. And so between Utica University and SUNY Poly Athletics over here, which we're trying to kind of not replicate, but have a similar standpoint to, because, esports, sports, the similarities. I am lowering the GPA, or at least putting it to the table to lower the GPA requirement to a 2.0. So the fact that more players could have more access to esports, but not only that, just so the stress level lowers down a bit. So, pretty much so they could not worry so much about stress. The other thing is I want to mark this bill for immediate attention.
That is a motion, correct?
Yes, sorry, I motion to mark this bill for immediate attention.
All right. Do we have a second? Seconded by Pro Tem Fees. Do we have any discussion on marking this for immediate attention? Wildcat Esports.
So I want to mark this bill for immediate attention because we are in the process of joining the National Association of Collegiate Esports, otherwise known as NACE. And because NACE does things a lot earlier than the other leagues, their registration for the spring semester is going to be the end of December, with leagues starting around with leagues starting like before the spring semester, so pretty much the middle of January. So, which that means that I and my fellow officers will have to have tryouts in the beginning of January, and that is before the spring semester. So I would have to, since this is the last Senate meeting before next semester, this is why this bill is being marked for immediate attention. I'm going to make another change right after this. I yield.
Senator Rosamelia.
Oh, sorry. I would motion to format justification on the next line. Oh, sorry.
Correct. We are in a motion. So do we have any further discussion on the motion to mark this for immediate attention? Seeing none with that, we'll be going on to voting. All those in favor? All those who oppose? And all those who abstain? With that, that motion passes 7-0-0, so we will be voting on it in this meeting. Wildcat Esports.
So I would, I apologize. I'm just talking real fast because I have a meeting at 1 o'clock. I'm going to pretty much do what Senator Rosamelia is going to do. I'm going to be making 2 motions. I'm going to merge 2 motions into a motion? Just 1 motion?
Yeah, you can just, as long as you state the 2 different motions, yeah.
Okay, so I want to make a motion to move justifications into a new line so it's formatted correctly. And I want to make a motion to say, to edit durations to say this bill will become law immediately. At the, right after ratifications, of course.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Rosamelia. Do we have any discussion?
Are you adding in the ratification? Because I don't see the upon majority vote ratification.
I'll add that as well. My apologies.
We'll redo that. Do we have a second for that motion? Seconded by Pro Tem Fees. Do we have any discussion? Webb.
Just out of curiosity, do you require your players to re-sign contracts between semesters?
So if there's a change in the contract between, like, for example, if we had that change, if that change went through in October, then yes. But if it's between semesters, no, they have to re-sign a contract every semester.
Webb.
I'm sorry, just that was contract. You said no, but then they have to re-sign a contract every semester. That was the question. Is like each semester, is it normally
Yes.
required for them to sign their contract again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so every semester, I apologize for the confusion. Every semester they must try out, and once they try out, we're actually doing a new thing. So, once they try out, team managers make their teams. We go to Megan and our advisor, Dr. Yusel, for GPA checks, and once that happens, we make teams. We'll make the teams official at that point. I yield.
Senator Rosamelia.
Point of inquiry. You don't need a so moved. No so moved, right?
No,
yield.
because the org head has motion power.
Okay, thank you.
Our advisor. CFB.
Anyway, so for club e-board positions, it's 2.0. So I think it would make sense to set the bar to be the same.
Wildcat Esports.
The concern that our advisor has. However, I was going really back and forth about this with my vice president, PJ, and we agreed, after many conversations, we agreed that while yes, it does make sense to have a good similarity, our players are not stipended like we are. They are not stipended, so they're not technically under SGU in terms of that. They're not part of SGU as far as stipended positions like the horseshoe is, like my officers are, like the e-boards from Web, CFB, Wildcat Media, etc. They're in a lower standard as far as that regards. So that is partly why we felt uncomfortable to uphold the 2.5 standard anymore. Plus, to have a little bit of a similarity to athletics again, all players in the athletics are upheld to a 2.0 GPA.
Correct.
Motion, please.
If the person who made the motion would like to restate.
So my motion was to move justification into a new line, and to add to the duration that this bill will become law immediately after a 2/3 vote or greater from the Senate.
Okay, thank you.
What?
Just to make the point that the law becoming, like the bill becoming law immediately, section might be irrelevant since we're in our last meeting and it already states that it will at the start of spring semester, which is when it will come into effect.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if we make this immediate, it means that it would change it over the winter break. That would be an immediate change, not at the start, because they need to do tryouts in January, correct? And if that's not changed before January.
Be signing the contract, and she said that they don't sign them until after tryouts and a GPA check from their advisor. And Megan, as I'm correct from what your explanation was, so this would go into effect by the point that they need them with the wording already.
Wildcat Esports.
Correct. No, I'm just trying to do this quickly because I have a meeting in 1 minute. What we're trying to do is pretty much have tryouts, have GPA checks, have the teams made before the spring semester starts. Yes, they sign a player contract every semester. However, because we're joining NACE, this is going to be a exception. They're going to be signing contracts before the spring semester starts over the winter break, but it's going to be the beginning of January. That is why I want to make this immediate.
Senator Rosamilia.
Point of clarification. Do you mean by tryouts meaning like you have to like vote on it like a second time? Because once it starts in the spring semester, you need to get another vote on it unless it gets like tabled. I yield to the floor.
I'm not exactly sure of the question. I'll yield to Wildcat Esports.
No, this was marked for immediate attention, so it gets voted on as soon as we end discussion here.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion? Alright, seeing none, we'll be going on to voting for the motion. All those who approve? All those who oppose? And all those who abstain? With that passes 7-0-0. Do we have any further discussion? Web.
I'd like to clear up a few points that were made that sounded kind of confusing earlier. Wildcat Esports players, since they are an org and have a contract within the org, are officially under the SGU. They would be, to about the same extent that we would have club executives are part of SGU under CFB. They have contracts that they sign. There are positions under there. They may not be stipended. CFB being under SGU means since they're under you, they would... Do they not sign contracts? Okay, then they would be further than a club executive. because they would have to sign a contract. Club executives do have the same GPA requirement, which would make sense that they're moving to one that would be the same as clubs, since this came from, as she said, Utica College's esports department, which is a club at Utica College. It's done under a club. It is done under a club. I was there for a meeting last semester when the previous president was also discussing with them. They did tell them that they were under a club jurisdiction. But so did the origin of esports at the school when it was started, so it would make sense for those players to have that same GPA requirement, since the foundation of this can be run through the jurisdiction of a club, so they shouldn't be treated otherwise in their player level. I yield.
Wildcat Esports.
So that actually has been changed. Utica University's esports program is under not really so much a club. It's a weird standpoint. It is a varsity program. Think of it as athletics, where their players are under a director of esports, which is a full-time faculty member of this campus. Oh, sorry, of Utica University's campus. So, oh man, I lost my bill. I'm sorry. I apologize. Now to go back on the CFB thing, well, it is true. Well, that is true. They signed a contract. My whole point is that they don't get stipends. And so I understand academics do come first, but we have to look at this in not academics, I'm sorry, an athletic standpoint. The athletics players do also serve academics first. Now, if we want to put a safety net saying, oh, they're on a warning if they go below a 2.5 or 2.7, okay, we can have those discussions in the spring. But for right now, I want to lower the standard to a 2.0 to replicate athletics. I yield.
Senator Rogers.
I guess I have a two-pronged question. The first, to cycle back to what our advisor had brought up a little bit ago. I'm currently looking at the Constitution as posted and engaged, and it states that in order to be eligible to even hold a contracted position, you need to have a GPA of 2.5. I guess my first question is, was this changed and yet to be updated, or is this a pseudo-contracted position to be a player? And I guess I'll save my second one for later, so I will yield.
Senator Rosamilia.
This is a different topic, but point of information on under miscellaneous of the Wildcat Esports bill. The last bullet says some of the wording from Bill 2122-16 was used as this bill is doing a similar action. Can you just clarify? Can anyone just clarify what that language is intended to state? I yield to the floor.
I'll yield to the author of the bill.
Sorry, I'm just sorry. So some of the wording from Bill number 2122-16 was used as this bill is doing a similar action. So pretty much what I'm doing is avoiding plagiarism. We had an issue with plagiarism a few semesters ago. So I pretty much was covering my tracks just to really make sure that people know where the wording is from and things like that, even though Bill number 2122-16 was co-authored by myself. 2120, and just for some clarification, 2122-16 was a big bill from Wildcat Esports by former President Joe Center and I, to format the policies and procedures before he graduated. I yield.
Proton, please.
Yield my time over to Will Shore. He's had his hand up for a while.
Oh, apologies.
Just a point of clarification. According to Utica University's own website, it is Utica University's Esports Club. So they are. I yield to.
Dated. That is outdated. they are in the process of doing press release and press release changes. I was there at Utica University about 2-3 weeks ago speaking to Director Dan. He if you guys want him to be a guest speaker for a future meeting, I will invite him, but I for sure will let you know that Utica University Esports is not a club. I yield.
All right, Ms. Bieber.
Hello. So, I want to bring up this point because, media, when we're signing, we have all radio people sign a contract. And that contract does not require any GPA requirements, anything like that. It's just purely a contract that says that if you're using our radio, we have the right to strike you if you do something wrong. And while I get it's a bit different for a player contract, I think the point of it still is that the point of the contract is you have to be held to a certain standard that if you do something wrong, then you're off the team. But I also don't think it can be as, yeah. I'll yield.
Wildcat Media.
So, I guess I'd say I'm hearing a lot of Utica University this, Utica University that. First, I'd like to say we aren't Utica University. We shouldn't be trying to just do whatever they're doing because we're our own school. And secondly, I'd like to say, personally, I believe we should keep the requirement the way it is, since academics should come first. And I know we're trying to mimic the way athletics has it set up, but personally, I also disagree with the way athletics has it set up. I think it should be higher for them as well. I yield.
Our president.
Answer Senator Rogers' question about the Constitution, it is up to date. I just double-checked that for you. And it does stand that it's 2.5. I yield.
CFB.
Was it? Was it? We're going back between 2.0, 2.5. Was it? Just, you have a meeting to go to, right? I would like to, motion a time limit of 5 more minutes to talk about this because, we're voting on it today. I think we have a couple other things that we got to get through. You have a meeting. Motion for a time limit of 5 minutes.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Self. Going on to discussion. Do we have any discussion on having a time limit for 5 more minutes, which would be 1:14 p.m.? Seeing none, we'll be going on to voting. All those in favor? All those who oppose? And all those who abstain? With that, that passes 7-0-0. Going back on to discussion. Web.
I'd just like to bring something else to attention when we're comparing this to how athletics does things. They may have their GPA requirements set to 2.0 or higher, but athletics also provides a lot of other oversight over the GPA of their players, including mandated study sessions that they are guided by certain advisors to uphold. They also have checkpoints of a 2.7 and a 2.5, which they mark for higher attention with further consequences for players, even though they won't be kicked off the team. These are things that, if you were really to compare a similar system to have this in place for players in esports, they wouldn't have any of these types of checks to assure that they are taking their academic requirements first. So that's another thing to keep in mind when looking at this. I yield.
Put some fees.
Senator Rose Amelia, he's had his hand up for a while.
What's it called? So technically, Wildcat Esports, is it kind of like under athletics or not really? It was kind of like interpreted as that way in order to make the students feel like they're actually like obligated to know their requirements. I yield to Wildcat Esports.
So, pretty much, you have to, when thinking about esports, you have to, the closest relation to esports, I know it's a very brand new thing in SUNY Poly, so that's why I'm kind of reiterating this. You have to think about athletics. The only similarity to esports on this campus is athletics. That is why we're kind of trying to replicate athletics. Now, of course, to I believe it was Webb's point, we can't do as much as athletics does because we are students as well. It is a FERPA obligation, and it is a FERPA thing. It's against FERPA that we have some of these things. But while yes, I am a part-time person in SUNY Poly. I am also a student, so I can't do like this is pretty much the reason why we need a part-time person to oversee the esports program anyway, so they could do these GPA checks and do study sessions with these players, etc. But we are trying to replicate this the best we can. That's why we have our advisor Megan and our advisor Dr. Yusel doing GPA checks. And we are in the future, over the winter break and in January, we're going to work with policy committee to work with the learning center to deal with these study times, so we could replicate athletics the best that we can without breaking any laws, is what I'm trying to say. I yield.
Senator Rogers.
So I guess with the clarification regarding the Constitution, then I will, I guess, ask, does this actually have any sort of effect? Because if you have to have a 2.5 to hold a contracted position, but the contract says you have to have a 2.0 in order to have that, you have to do 2.5? Or are player contracts only quote-unquote contracts and that they're not necessarily under the same rules? I guess I'll yield to whoever can answer that question.
So that's a good question. So just to clarify, are you saying that does our Constitution trump this bill, right?
I'm referring to the esports constitution saying that you have to have a 2.5 to have a contract. So if that is a thing, then the Constitution kind of trumps the entire.
Right. I would say that's correct. Yes. And then just another point of clarification to answer Senator Rosamelia's question. Esports is not directly under athletics. Esports is directly under the student government. Right now, what they're trying to do is kind of mirror what athletics is doing with their students, but they're not part of athletics. I yield.
On to Webb.
Orgs, their policy procedures, their contracts are directly within their constitution and policies and procedures. So anything that is on a contract directly goes under, and it would abide by any rules within a org's policies and procedures. Just to confirm with Senator Rogers. Also, I'd just like to point out we can, in contracts, without being in any legal trouble, tell students that they should be going to study sessions from a void contract, as long as we have the ability to communicate with the Learning Center to provide those openings for them if they were to have certain contracts, if they were in certain levels of an academic check instead of being removed. We do have the ability to set that up. There are contracts. We can make them as we please, as long as we have some sort of ability to go along with that. It's our own wording. We have control over that. I yield.
We have hit the time. It is 1:15 p.m. So, from there, we'll be going on to voting. All those in favor of this bill? All those who oppose? And all those who abstain? With that, that fails 0-5-2. Concluding with that, as we mentioned, we're skipping all reports and on to old business. Bill 2223-13. Senator DeHoop.
223-13.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Rosamilia.
We the member of the student government at Utica of SUNY Poly, as presenting the Senate, do enact as follow. The purpose of this bill is to update the financial policy.
Do we have any discussion? Senator Rosamilia.
Point of information: what does it mean that students cannot use the policy to the best of their ability? Does it mean they're trying to take advantage of it somehow, or are they trying to replicate it without anyone else knowing or trying to change it, I yield to the treasurer.
That is probably a misstatement that I put in. So the intention is basically that with the updated stuff from previous bills in previous years, because we don't have a 9th edition, student doesn't know what has been updated on Engage. It is basically just say, hey, this is an updated policy, updated edition of our policy, and there are many stuff that was absent since the last edition, so here's a newly updated edition for you guys to use. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion? CFP.
Could you give us, like, I guess in your own words, just like any of like one or two like major just highlights, what exactly changed? I'm mostly interested in clubs. I mean, does anything really change with them? But I guess in your own words, any.
So a few major changes is basically reimbursements. Reimbursements will be for the gas mileages for clubs that travel a lot. I know one club member brought it up to me, and I changed it last year through the Senate. Another thing would be the student activities fee waiver. That stuff has been updated also. Besides that, there's nothing too important to be touched upon. It's just reimbursement for traveling and student activities fee waiver. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion? Senator Rosamilia.
I think I'm referring to financial policy, and I saw the bullet under duration, and it said that immediately ratified by the Senate and the President, and I just want to say, if it's a new policy being brought up, should it be maybe ratified once again after the spring semester, just in case people forget during like the semester break? If I'm trying to put it out like that.
So
I yield.
Just
to
for
treasurer.
clarification, well, you did yield to the treasurer, so if you would just like to answer.
Basically, this bill is updating everything from what has been passed to update the financial policy. If there is no bill on the table for like next spring semester that updates financial policy, there's no point in submitting another edition which has no changes. I yield.
Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, as with that, this is old business, so we'll be going on to voting. All those in favor? All those who oppose? And all those who abstain. With that, that bill passes 7-0-0. On to Bill 2223-14. Senator Rogers.
2223-14.
This is made by committee.
We, the members of the Student Government Utica of SUNY Poly, as represented in the Senate, do hereby enact as follows. The purpose of this bill is to allow the Chief Justice role to become the co-chair of Policy Committee.
Do we have any discussion? Senator Rosamilia.
Point of information. It stated somewhere in the bill about like election committee. What do they mean by election committee? I yield to the floor on this one.
I'll yield to Pro Tem Fees.
So election committee takes place when we have an election, so they just oversee it. So like, for example, when we all here were getting elected, I think it was the vice president and someone else who would co-chair that committee, and in that sense, they just basically follow the elections. They make packets, they set dates, and they just kind of watch over what happens. So that's election committee.
Oh, is it? The treasurer. Okay.
This bill again, I'm just wondering if you guys want to put like a sub-bullet point to this committee shall be co-chaired by the Chief Justice, as I know that in previous years there hasn't been a Chief Justice as active. Probably put in like a cushion saying this committee will be co-chaired by by the President Pro Tempore of SGU in case there's no Chief Justice available. I yield.
Senator Rosamilia.
I would like to make a motion to add the sub-bullet under the Chief Justice will co-chair policy committee and pro temp if the Chief Justice isn't there. I yield. Yes.
Chair.
So right under the.
So right under policy, just say I would like to add a bullet in the absence of the Chief Justice, the pro temple chair. So just amend, just
Okay.
state your motion again and say it like that.
Motion to add a bullet under policy that will say in the absence of the Chief Justice, the pro temp will take over to be the co-chair. I yield.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Pro Tem Fees. Do we have any discussion for the motion? Seeing none, we'll be going on a voting. All those in favor? All those who oppose? And all those who abstain? With that, that passes 7-0-0. Back on the discussion of the bill. Seeing none, as this is old business, we'll be going on a voting. All those in favor? All those who oppose? And all those who abstain? With that, that passes 7-0-0. That concludes old business, going on to new business. So it's Bill 2223-16, Pro Tem Fees.
Bill number 2223-16, contractual obligation updates.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Self.
The purpose of this bill is to properly identify the contractual obligation of positions over 8 hours.
Do we have any discussion? Pro Tem Fees.
So I'd like to begin by just pointing out some of the policies and procedures violations that are in this. So Article 11, that's our petitions article in our policies and procedures, states in 11.1.0, official petitions will be read during open forum, and 11.3.0, the vice president will assign the petition to a senator to make a bill or resolution based on the petition to be read to the following meeting. If possible, they should work with the author of the bill. So to sum up, really, the petition needs to be brought before the Senate before the bill is written, which kind of makes this, I'm not sure if it would be the bill or the petition void in this matter. Furthermore, there's nothing in our policy that allows us to make a petition override certain privileges of the Senate, such as tabling a bill or the president's ability to veto. I know some may argue that just because it's not stated in the policies and procedures, it can be allowable, but that sets a precedent that we can just kind of bend the policies and procedures as long as it's not explicitly stated. I think setting that precedent is dangerous going forward. Because, you know, if we continue to set that precedent, we can bend the rules in ways which could fit personal agendas. I also feel that the policy implications of this bill have been overlooked. We cannot control jobs off campus. We just can't. SUNY SA is an off-campus job. It's an off-campus contract that is home in Albany with no particular campus being its home. So I'd like to ask, you know, how does SUNY SA different from the job that I hold over at the restaurant in Simeon's? You know, you could argue that my job at Simeon's, in which I work 25 hours a week, is impeding my ability to do my job in the Senate. Is it? Could be. But that's not something that we can control, you know what I mean? Also, how do you keep track of who's in SUNY SA? Do you have, you know, our advisor call up the advisor of SUNY SA every semester to figure it out? Because, you know, I don't have to disclose if I'm a member. It's a lot of research. It's a lot of time and trouble to do this. Also, what is the disciplinary action if this is to be passed if somebody is in SUNY SA? You know, I feel like I asked that last semester and that wasn't really answered. Are they struck until they resign? How do you prove that they've resigned? Are they impeached? I want to know that. I'd also like to, you know, ask the question of, do the people who made this petition really understand SUNY SA? When asked about contract requirements, when asked about SUNY SA, the person that came up to answer, you know, started their statement with, I think. And that really bugged me in a way, because if you're starting your statement with, I think, it's very difficult to inform people on that matter, especially when you're signing a petition. I'd also like to state that this could probably be handled privately in a professional manner, all of this. If you have problems with your constituents, you can approach them in an email in the cabinet meeting. You can approach them after a Senate meeting. anything along those lines. This can be absolutely handled in a private and professional manner. I think this piece of legislation is honestly a waste of time. I think there's a lot of things that we haven't thought about with this before this was written, and now that we're bringing it here, we're pointing out some of those fallacies. In the bill, those shortcomings. I think it's a great idea to, hold our executive members accountable. I just don't think that this is the way that we should be doing it. I think there's other, more private, more professional manners that we could be doing this in. I'd like to end this sort of speech with a motion to remove bullets 2 and 3 under the duration. Those state this bill cannot be vetoed and this bill cannot be tabled just because they are illegal via our policies and procedures. I'd like to yield to the floor.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Schnorr. Do we have any discussion on this motion? Well,
I'd just like to point out that this, involving the petition with this bill, the bill was written before the petition. The wording of the bill was provided during that, and it was a petition of support towards the bill. The statements that it would prevent anything, yes, they're not within policy procedures that we could do them. That would just make them void in action, just make them meaningless words, essentially. It would not violate anything because there's nothing expressing that you can't add things that are inactionable into bills and policy procedures. They would just be taken as more of like an expression of support from that this would be for, the petition is for, that they didn't want to see. These people said in the petition did not want to see these things happen in an immediate sense. It doesn't mean that you could not do them. I yield.
our president.
So, just to clarify, I think you've already kind of solved that, but the, however you read it, the petition, or not a petition, it would cancel only the petition and not the bill itself. Yep.
Our audience member.
Is this on? So, I'm the treasurer. I don't feel comfortable sitting in my position when speaking about this bill, so I'm here as an audience member. If a new person just came in and heard whatever was being said, I would like to keep it short. Thank you for your comment, but you're explaining too much at a short amount of time. It's kind of hard to keep track and juggle about what's going on. Touching upon your topic about precedent, there has been many precedent that's kind of been set on the Senate, which shouldn't have been done, but the senators have been doing it, and that's basically one thing. Another thing, so about the bill, it wasn't about the petition. I didn't go out and collect saying I think. I said that this is an issue. And then also about, there was one more thing. It left my mind, so I'll yield.
Just for clarification, we are still in the motion to remove the second and third bullet point.
Sorry.
So, do we have any discussion regarding the motion? Senator Rosemelia.
Even it says the bill cannot be vetoed with at least 100 signatures, or if that was like a fairly lower number, and it's talking about tabling indefinitely. Since it's a bill, it doesn't, even though as it seems before, it would violate the policy and procedures, wouldn't it change it right away? Since I think it says it will be right as the ratification of the Senate or something. So I yield to the floor.
Can you repeat that question? I'm not exactly sure.
So those two statements under duration that are tended to be getting rid of, wouldn't that update policy right away and to complete what was in policy before, so it doesn't violate it? I yield.
Are you asking if those change our policies and procedures to add those bullet points? Okay.
Yeah, no, that's just under duration. It's not changing the policies and procedures to reformat all bills to say that.
It's under, okay.
Do we have any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none. Oh, apologies, while coming to you.
Will the changes be in effect as soon as, if this motion passes, will the changes be in effect immediately?
Yes.
Alright, thank you.
Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll be going on to voting. All those in favor? All those who oppose? All those who abstain? With that, that passes 5-0-2. Going back into discussion of the bill. Senator Rosamilia.
I might have mentioned this before, but I forgot to. I probably forgot what I said. But it refers to students working up to 20 hours per week under right before methods, and then it says this position, or I think positions, can't exceed 8 hours per week. Is the maximum 20 or 8? Am I just looking at, maybe is it converging student and other positions, or is that student 20 hours like academics only? I yield to the floor.
I'll yield to the treasurer as he is the author.
So with your comment, so 8 hours is basically our positions. It's basically stating that this position will work over 8 hours. And the 20-hour mark is basically on what the school allows a student to work on campus. So if a student has work study or holds a part-time job on campus, they can't exceed over 20-hour mark. I yield.
Our secretary.
Okay. So I have a lot of thoughts. So I'm going to put everything into one. There are several things that I'm concerned about with this bill, so I wanted to walk through them with you all. This is not equitable for students who are in financial need. Many of you were upset at my comment last week about resigning. This is solely because I have bills to pay. I can't leave one job that pays hourly, another job that pays my meal plan, and another job that pays me a stipend of nearly triple mine of SGU for a measly $400 a semester. I can't do it. I'm going off of that. Why is this targeting SUNY SA? What about work study programs? What about internships? Although I'll keep names to myself, I have several instances where people are unable to focus on this campus and their job due to outside work. So why is this focused on SUNY SA? Alluding back to this bill is extremely personal. It is very blatantly obvious in the language used in this bill that this bill is being used to target certain individuals and does not belong on the Senate floor. Going on the issues of the actual bill, as Pro Temp Feast has mentioned before, the petition does not follow the policy and procedures. It was not brought up in the proper manner. And although I do recognize that these are students' voices, this petition is invalid due to its proposal. There's also many overlookings of this bill that I'd like to talk about a little bit. It states all contracts over 8 hours, which is far more than the exec and org head positions previously mentioned in the bill. So is it the 8 hours? Because this would also impact the cabinet as well as the chief of staff and assistant treasurer position. Also, what are the logistics of this bill? How is this going to occur? Is our advisor going to have to call Katie Dame every semester and say, so who are we, who's leaving SGU today? I'd love to hear some logistics of this bill. I'll leave you all with a question for the lead author of this bill, Sean Wu. Without any fluff or buts, can you provide a clear example, situation, or event where anyone here has put SUNY SA before SGU? I'll yield to Sean Wu.
So, I kind of forgot that question because someone made a comment. Can you repeat that question, please? I'm sorry.
So, without any fluff or buts, can you provide a clear example, situation, or event where anyone here has put SUNY SA before SGU?
So you're basically asking me who hasn't been in office that many times because I don't want to be involved in conflicts about what happened in situations in office? I yield to the floor. That's easy to explain. So the complaint being brought is there's nothing being done. Students aren't hearing what SGU has been doing. I've talked with students. They're like, oh, I don't know what SGU is. There's also one student that I just talked with yesterday, and I asked, hey, what do you think about SGU? He's like, well, SGU, it's like something everyone knows if you're internally involved. So that basically brings up the question of, are we really advocating for students? Are we really reaching out to students? And there are many other students on campus, especially residential, says, well, we see the problem that because, X, Y, and Z was in SUNY SA, like we know they are also in SUNY SA, but nothing's been done because they're too focused on SUNY SA that I did not reach out to my constituents about that because it's been an issue. All right, so if I could, I would invite them here, but they're currently doing a project outside. I did talk to them if they could come in and support me about this issue. Obviously, you know, it's last meeting. Finals was next week. Most people are probably focused on finals. And I did not reach out to anyone on the petition list is due to this reason. So, I kind of lost my track of thoughts. I yield.
Senator Self.
So I got three things. I'm hoping I can remember all three, but I will also go back to what the secretary had said about internships. I'm metaphorically still working in an internship currently, and I just took recently 2 weeks off just to focus on school. So you could make the point I'm focusing too much on work there and not on my campus life. So I'm recently now just getting refocused on my campus. But also, I don't mean to point fingers with trying to yell at the senators, but we are not fully getting everything out to the students as we would love to. I know I had 2 surveys out. I only got 1 response that I've last seen, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself for not being able to get it out and advertised as much as I wanted to. That's my failure by myself, not getting these surveys promoted as well as I could have. I yield.
Director of Community Outreach.
I would like to state out front that I see the purpose of the bill and I don't disagree with holding our executives to a high standard. However, I believe that this bill does not effectively accomplish that, but rather puts an upper limit as to how far we allow their ambition to take them. I do not believe that we, as a governance organization, have the authority to decide what a person can and cannot do effectively with their time, especially considering we all have way more than 8 hours in a week. The purpose of an organization such as ours is to allow students to challenge themselves in a professional manner and allow themselves to push to their limits while representing the student body. Moving forward, while I agree with the intention of this bill where it hopes to hold our executives to a high standard, I disagree with how it is implemented because rather than holding our executives accountable for their work, it chooses to place a ceiling on how high we allow them to rise. I yield.
Wildcat Media.
So, a few things I've heard is like, what are the logistics of this? I'll start by saying we already have policies in place for, like, res life positions can't be org heads. So, clearly, someone is already doing those checks to make sure people aren't having 2 positions. Now, another thing that I'll say is, like, I hear people... let me try to word this. So, I don't believe, from what I've heard talking to students, and some of the people around the horseshoe, is that our concern, the concern doesn't seem to be people in SUNY SA. It seems to be people are upset that we're using SUNY Poly resources for SUNY SA. One thing I've heard time and time again is SUNY SA information was written on a whiteboard. I've heard that 3 times now. That people are upset that SUNY SA had a larger list of things to do on a whiteboard than SUNY Poly. Is that really something we're going to be bothered about? And I guess another thing is I will disagree with everyone who's just like, students don't know what SUNY SA is. I do believe it's disrespectful to our students to assume that they don't know. I believe we should have faith in our students here. Like, to say they don't know what SUNY SA is when some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them don't know what SGU is. This morning, I asked a student what SGU stood for, and they said some gun users, so students don't know what SGU is either, if we're going to try to say they don't know what SUNY SA is. But, lastly, upon talking with some of the authors of this bill, as well as just students in general and other members of the Horseshoe, this bill seems to have been written after some personal beef between some of the authors and some of the people this would affect the most. So I would like to ask the authors if this bill is the most mature way of dealing with personal beef. I yield.
Senator Rosamilia.
I'm going off from a different perspective. Just to make the comparison of, how can you compare SUNY SA with internships if, internships are kind of, for an outside resource to maybe, gain, an outside source of income, and SUNY SA is a little different from that because it kind of indirectly communicates with all of the SUNY campuses and governments. So I can't see that internships at SUNY SA. I can't see that internships should be like seated. Like the hours, it could be chosen upon by the positioner, but their position in student government, they could still pay attention to it as much as they could, but the internship, they can choose. But SUNY SA is a little different.
I just want to remind everyone, in 3 minutes we will be having open forum. On to Senator Schnorr.
I would like to respond to Treasurer Wu's earlier comments that people who are involved with SUNY SA and the executive board are unable to effectively reach out to the constituents and students on campus. I would like to say that both me and Senator Totino were both previously uninvolved with most clubs, organizations' activities, and thus were outside of the internals of knowing of SGU and the workings. But through the activities of an executive, we were brought into the organization and informed. So, if anything, there's proof that executives are doing their jobs and that it's the students who do not care to be involved. I yield.
Our president.
So 2 things. I'll entertain the motion to push back open forum till 1:55.
So moved by Pro Tem Fees. Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Self. Going on to discussion. And what was the time again? I'm sorry. 1:55. What?
Just like to point out that discussion kind of has broken down to where people, at a point, it's level, and I'm not making a comment towards the senators that have spoken recently, but within the execs that has been pointed back and forth between people and authors and doesn't seem to be progressing anything forward in discussions. Just like to say that move away from that, as well as just making a point that internships and out-of-school jobs or anything aren't listed on this bill. It's not the same equivacy for a reason that I'll give as an author that SUNY SA is pointed out, is to do with the nature of how it both a executive of the student government where their focus should be, as well as a SUNY SA member, where a SUNY SA member is focused towards the constituency of the entirety of SUNY as a whole, and looking towards that where the expectation of a student government executive is to focus solely on the campus that they are a part of and improving that directly, and having a different structure of payment, a different schedule around 2 different sections of where you're looking to represent, does make a good at least impression on people that your focus as an executive wouldn't be towards that constituency that which you're expected to represent on your campus. I yield.
Our secretary. We are still in the motion for moving open forum to 1:55. I'd just like to remind everyone. Senator Rosamilia.
Think about what the bill is intended to do. Like maybe not over-interpreting its separate like ideas, but as a whole, think of it almost like as maybe a potential warning. I was so to say that. I yield.
Do we have any more discussion? Again, this is the motion to move open forum until 1:55 p.m. Seeing none, we'll be going on to voting. All those in favor? All those who oppose? And all those who abstain? With that, that passes 7-0-0. Back on to discussion. Our audience member.
Hi. So I want to speak as a former president here and also a student. And I also want to respond to a couple comments that were made about the comparison between res life and student government. First, all of the stipends here are less than $9,000 to which the RAs are paid, so let's use that as a reference point if we're going to use anything in that discussion as a reference point, because the work that an RA does is nowhere near comparable to the price that they're paid, nor the work of the student government. And secondly, the latest comment about an executive involving themselves with SUNY SA. So SUNY SA is our governing organization and represents the students of the 64 campuses, and also provides us with a legislative arm to advocate for things that we need. So being that we're a public school, our school is funded every year by the New York State Legislature. So SUNY SA provides us that leverage to, if there's needs that we need to advocate specifically for our campus, we have a direct line to the people that are going to provide the funding for that. Secondly, this organization provides not just our executives, but every single student, which is a constituency of an executive if they decide to go into SUNY SA, with various resources, various opportunities to excel and grow in the classroom, outside of the classroom, whatever. So I just think that we're limiting people. I'm not involved really, but I can hear from the discussion there's a lot of personal stuff that I think could be flushed out. But the integrity of this bill, I think you all have to think about when voting on it, when discussing it. Do we really feel comfortable with limiting students of opportunities and ridding them of those opportunities? And the last thing I'll say, I was a president during a time to where this organization didn't allow our school to actively be involved, okay? Our current president can attest to this. Our organization, SGU, has not been involved with SUNY SA for the past 3 years prior to now. So again, we're providing students with opportunities that weren't afforded to us. So I would think about all those things. I yield.
Wildcat Media.
A thing to add on to what I said previously, I know there's a lot of talk about students not believing that our president has done enough. I know two examples that are always pointed to are the clocks and the lights. I understand students being upset over the clocks. I don't see why administration, I guess, isn't willing to spend the money to put a clock in every classroom. I don't see the need to figure out which classrooms are used the most. I think we should just put a clock in every classroom, but one thing I will point out is the new food service provider. That was done under President Fish. So, yeah. It shows that he is doing some work here. I yield.
Our president.
So to go off of our audience member, so just some connections that I've made and some advocacy on our campus through SUNY SA. So I've had the amazing opportunity to meet with Chair Tish. If you don't know who that is the SUNY SA Board of Trustees chair, and I also am very close with another chair member who is also on that Board of Trustees. And through SUNY SA, I was able to have a direct meeting with Chair Tish and Chair Chun and discuss the impacts of us missing a president right now, and then also the split between CNSE and SUNY Poly. So I really have to thank my position in SUNY SA because I was able to discuss that directly with the leaders making those changes within the SUNY system. Without that, again, I wouldn't have had that connection. As we saw the last 2 years, we didn't have that ability to do that. And then the third point I'd like to make is just so that everybody is aware, the position I specifically have, you need to be in the student government in order to have the position. You have to be the campus delegate, which is normally presidents, in order to have the position I own. So this would restrict us from having the opportunity to have a representative within SUNY SA because you're restricting the president to do so. This isn't just about me, it's about the next president after me, and so on. This would restrict them. I yield.
This is just like a side note. I have a meeting at 2, as well as the secretary has a separate meeting at 2, so I'm going to yield the chair to the pro temp, if that's okay. I know that's sudden, but...
Oh, shoot.
That's going to affect voting. So I would recommend not accepting that.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Trevor's up.
I accept. Okay. Do we have any discussion on the bill? Person fees.
Burn our bridge with SUNY SA, you know what I mean? We're getting a community garden because we have those connections to SUNY SA. One of my projects that I have birthed, quote unquote, here at SUNY Poly could be going system-wide. Those are really big, important changes that put SUNY Poly on the map. We're a small campus. We only have 3,000 people. Wouldn't we love to have, that connection? To be the campus that changed first. I think that's a really cool opportunity for us, and I fear that we lose that opportunity by barring anybody on that exec board has to be talented, by barring current talented members and future talented members from being in SUNY SA. You're burning that bridge. I think that's something that we also have to keep in mind.
Going system-wide.
So I'm working with Christina Warnstead on possibly getting my student wellness checks system-wide, hopefully, crossing our fingers. So I'll be working with her as the director of accessibility. We'll be working together. Hopefully we can get that system-wide, but we're in the talks now.
Senator Rogers.
I guess I'm going to start by cycling all back to the very beginning. I'd just like to point out that when the student question to define SUNY SA was done, that was done out of the blue when they were sitting in the audience being called up. That's uncertainty is a natural reaction to being called out. I think that we could definitely do a better job of having students learn both what SGU does and what all the surrounding organizations do. I think that is a thing that we can address. I think that is outside of this bill. So I'm not really going to say much more on that. Sorry, I've been holding on to this for a little bit. I'll just say that in the end, I do agree with the idea of this bill. I think this has been a long-standing, as brought up a few of the long-standing sort of like complaints. I did not write the bill. You see my name on the petition sheet. That was what I saw. So I think that the question then I would say is, in opposition to the bill, what would be the answer? And I don't want that really answered right now because that's not something to answer right now. How would we want to address that concern? I think that is something that we can obviously see from this. And I think that even if we disagree on the idea that's being presented here, how do we want to go through with that? I don't know when we want to talk about that. And I guess tertiarily, to get that out of the way, I'd just like to make a motion to remove the sub-bullet under bullet 3 in justifications, specifically the segment which says many constituents have come to third parties to express their concerns and uncomfortable experiences with specific individuals.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Pro tem fees. Do we have any discussion? Pro tem fees.
Side of a motion, but can we? May I motion to move back open forum to 2 o'clock, please?
Do we have a second on that? Senator Self. I'm sorry, this is very difficult.
I'm sorry.
Nope. Do we have any discussion on the motion to move open forum to 2 o'clock? Seeing none, does anyone oppose unanimous consent? Seeing none, that motion passes 7-0-0. On to the previous motion. Do we have any discussion on that? Senator Rosamilia.
To point out from his motion, do you want to get rid of it to mainly change the, like, were you intended before to change the language of it? Because as I heard earlier, as I heard like a few days ago, I know it seemed unprofessional to speak about that, and like kind of goes off from like a secret, so other people like can't know what it is, whether they're referring to third parties or specific individuals. And I think it's, from me, my opinion, it's kind of inappropriate to say specific individual. So is that?
Somewhat, I think that The mention of specific individuals isn't necessarily the best way to put that. This doesn't really change anything in the justification of the bill. I just don't really like that specific line, and I think that a lot of the concerns about being directed towards people, while we can't necessarily address the issue outside of the bill, inside the bill, we can, I don't know. I just didn't like that line. I'll yield.
Webb.
Just as clarification for this, I'm in full support of what Senator Rogers is trying to come at. I believe I was only involved in writing the methods of this, but I assume the intent of this was to point out that the concerns from students were towards executive members, be it current or past. I don't think it was meant to be targeting actual individuals or trying to claim that as something of a personal grudge, but it does unfortunately give that impression in the wording. I yield.
Senator Rosamelia.
Just as a suggestion, if they're referring as students to students, shouldn't students, the use of students and co-students be converged together into one, just like say either co-students throughout the bill or students?
Be under House rules, because those would be the same thing. House or
Okay.
constituents and students.
It is 1:57. Do we have any more discussion on this motion? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to voting. All those who approve? All who oppose? All who abstain? That motion passes 4-0-1. Do we have any discussion? Our audience member.
So another thing I want to point out too, just to cement the idea of why our executives need to be able to allowed to participate in SUNY SA. Next week, myself, as I'm a member of SUNY SA as the comms director, and we just hired another one of your members to represent students around the system, Lucas. I hired him to my team last week, so we're excited about that. But myself and President Fish will have the opportunity to meet the new chancellor next week. So this is the person who's literally going to lead our entire university system. So we have an opportunity to ask this person about our campus leadership and things like that. So if we circumvent that off of the notion that a few students who don't have a full understanding of this organization, that our executive board entirely isn't doing anything, I would implore the other executive board members whom may have authored this letter or this resolution or not, that they have a platform to address those concerns and do those things too, being an executive. So if we're pointing the finger at one person, we have to look collectively and see what we're doing as 4 people, as a representative body, to address these concerns and not just pointing it at one, because I would be remiss to say that if any executive member feels as though that a mass majority of students aren't being heard or there's a lot of concerns, they were elected by that same constituency and has that same platform to bring about those concerns and changes. I yield.
Pro Tem Fees.
I'd like to motion to move forward back to both 3.
Do we have a second? Senator Schnorr. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, does anyone oppose unanimous consent? Do you? Okay.
This bill is a new business, so if we can't get, it's not.
It
It's
is
a
an
never
old
mind.
business. It was moved to.
Yep, that's my bad. Sorry.
Anyone oppose unanimous consent on this motion? This motion passes 5-0-0. Moving back to discussion of the bill. President Fish, not Pro Tem Fish.
Not making the motion, but because we didn't remove the last 2 bullet points, we can table it until next semester. But I will not make the motion. I yield.
Pro Tem Fees.
Been going around in circles for like the past half hour. I'd like to call the question.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
Senator Self. Does anyone have any discussion on the... There's no discussion on the call to question. We'll be moving on to voting for the call to question.
Yes.
All those who approve. All who oppose. And all who abstain. Call to question passes 4-0-1. 4-0-3.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we will be moving on to voting for the bill. Are you entertaining that motion? Do we have a so moved? So moved by Pro Tem Fees. Do we have a second? Senator Rose Amelia. I don't know how to do this. Okay, we'll be voting on the roll call vote. All who approve? All who oppose? And all who abstain? That passes. 302. We will be doing a roll call vote. 304. My apologies. We're moving on to a roll call vote. Do I just call their name? Yeah. Okay. Senator Rogers, how do you vote?
Ooh, that's a good question. I expected the discussion to go for a second. I'll go to abstain.
Senator Rogers abstains. Senator Hobb and Senator Totino abstain as they are absent. Pro Tem Fees, how do you vote?
I vote no on this bill.
Senator Self, how do you vote?
Vote no.
Senator Schnorr, how do you vote?
I vote no.
Senator Rosamelia, how do you vote?
I vote abstained.
That motion, that bill, that bill fails. 3, 3, 0, 4. 0, 0, 3, 4. My apologies. I'm not very good at this. 0, 3, 4. We will be moving into open forum as it is 2:03. Treasurer Wu?
Because reports got moved, canceled and stuff, I'm here to make my report as it is important. Hi all, I hope you are doing well. I have good news and bad news. Let's go with the good news, the bad news first. I'll be resigning and this is my last meeting as the SGU treasurer. This organization has treated me well and it has been a great 3.5 years of experience. If I had a choice, I would not be resigning, but due to the way how the current situation is, the organization does not bring me joy in what I do anymore. I will still be advocating for students, and if there are any concerns, I will still try to help out to the best of my ability with a few connections I have made along this long journey. I hope all of you will be focused on academics, as next week is the final week. Besides that, please get home safely and don't make too bad of a mistake where you can't hold yourself accountable. And enough of this speech. The good news is that you're getting your stipends. The stipends are available right now, and if you have submitted the form for direct deposit, it will be in your account tomorrow. For those picking up your stipend, the Wildcat Den closes at 4:30 p.m. Please go to Sherry to confirm. Anyway, since this is a short report, light speed to all of you. I yield.
I know about the stipend thing. It's just like, what is it? What does it look like exactly? I yield.
Yeah, hi. What is it? What did they say on the radio? Long time listener, first time caller? What's up? Actually, no, that's a lie. I've came up here many times. So, anyway, how are you guys doing? It's last meeting. Exciting. Let's see. I'm going to go over my report because it's actually very, 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 very important. The clubs say hi. That's it. That's all I have. They said hi. They actually didn't say hi, but I wanted to say that they said hi. Okay, so we have 3 other things. They're not that important, but I like coming up here and talking. I'm going to go over the first one because I forgot to bring this up when we had our important guest speaker. But since the last time we put in a work order and it went so well, I'm kind of hoping maybe the same thing will happen. All right, phones. We have them in our hands. Generally, phones aren't attached to walls anymore. I'm talking about phone boxes. Again, it's not a huge thing. Like, I mean, it's not like a light issue or anything like that. But it's like, what was it? I know in Donovan and I know in Kinsella, they have those phone boxes. I'm sure they've been disconnected for probably close to maybe 20 years, maybe more. I don't know. They're attached to the wall. It would be kind of nice to, maybe put in a work order to get rid of them. So at least we have a work order in and it's in there. I don't care when it's done, but same ideology. Just whenever they get taken down, I just want a work order in. So, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to, complain that they go missing or I don't know. Anyway, that was the first thing. Unless if anyone wants to talk about it. I'll yield to the floor.
Do you know who is responsible to get rid of those phone boxes? I yield to our audience member.
It's probably facilities. I mean, if you give me, I have a sledgehammer in my office. I'll go take them down. As long as I get approval, I'm just saying I could turn it into a, really quick 2 minutes. Anyway, yeah, I'll yield to our lovely president.
So I'll make sure, and the co-chairs here, but we'll make sure that gets to the Safety Facilities Committee.
Very nice. All right. I will keep. Okay, we got 2 more things. What was it? We'll probably just. I'd prefer to keep this one pretty brief. I know we really talked right before we got called into. What was it? When he had banged the hammer. Anyway, called into session. Was it? I know we talked about capstones. What was the next step? That's kind of the thing. I just want to really make sure that what was the next step? I know we talked about it's not a thing that's going to happen this semester. Just what was the next? Either one. You can play rock, paper, scissors to talk first if you want.
So I'll go first. I did go back to the provost and talk to Provost Damova about this. And she mentioned that there is an amount of funding, but she wasn't sure, and she wasn't sure the process of that, and she'll look into that.
Yeah.
So right now she's going back to Dean Carpenter.
Yep.
Okay, Dean
Yep.
Carpenter, to talk about whether or not the application of funding is available and accessible and equitable to all students, and then in addition to seeing if there is an option of getting more funding within that bank or pool.
Yeah.
I yield.
Yeah.
My conversation with Provost was canceled last week because our meeting went over late.
Yeah.
So that's the next question is just about process. Right?
Yeah.
The ongoing process. So, so what's the long term to this? A long time ago, even SGU has discussed capstone in the past. Couldn't find it before today's meeting about what that was like. Did you see students could come to the mic and request money, and you all kind of put a cost to that, or whether it was legislative to reduce that? The process for me as your advisor is to go and ask focus on what is the next process and stuff, and basically get an answer. The answer you may not like, the answer might be something we're not going to do.
Yeah.
I want to look at it in terms of equity across the colleges, because as you mentioned in one of your first meetings, was some get them paid for or part of their fees. I don't. Why is it not like that? Why is it not
Yeah.
equitable? So that's the question I'm raising. President Fish is raising a different one, but I'm raising more about the equity across it as you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember too. We talked about it being the standard. I'd kind of hope that isn't the standard because I feel like that's a little bit, I know not all schools do mechanical engineering tech, but I feel like, the closest representation is mechanical engineers, and I'm like, I don't know. It's just, it feels weird to be in I can't see a legitimate reason why not to, but for some reason it is this way. What is it? Do others have for open form?
I'll also comment
Okay.
personally that when I was in school, I paid for a semester to go student teach.
Yeah.
I paid my full tuition. I was not in the classroom. I went to student teach in the
Yeah.
for an entire semester. So though the comparison's not there are just fees and structures that are put in place where you have to sort of pay for things that are part of your education thing. I think here it's about the equity about why some, why not others, how
Yeah.
it's factored in. Does that make just
Yeah,
reference
yeah.
to something very, very different, but there are other majors where you certainly pay. So it doesn't seem like why am I paying for a student teacher for
Yeah.
running a classroom, but that's just what you do.
Okay. I mean, I was just looking for the next step, but I think where we're going on is good. Is this? I want to finish up the last 2 things. I don't know. I've been talking a lot. Do you guys want to? I don't know if this is to add on to. I don't. I've been talking a lot. I don't know how. Do you want to go? It's a quick thing. Okay, we'll break it up. I'll talk later.
Just yield to Aiden.
I'll yield to Aiden.
I just since I didn't have a report today, there's just one thing. Since you guys are all public faces on campus, you might end up hearing about it. Just relay to me. There was an email sent out, as many of you know since you volunteered casino night, that prizes were being given out this week due to them coming in late from holiday shipping. One person told me last night that did end up receiving their prize that they weren't able to see this email that was sent out to all of them. If anyone makes that talks about it or makes comments towards you and you hear about it, please just let me know or tell them to email me. Sometimes Outlook has hiccups, and we want to make sure that they get their prizes. Thank you.
So before I yield to the next person, I just want to also announce that none of the executives will ever email anybody through a personal email address, and especially not ask for eBay gift cards. So just make sure that you're telling your constituents and friends or anyone that no one will ever be sending an email through a personal email. They'll always be through a SUNY Poly email, and even if you still have questions with a SUNY Poly email, just send me a text or grab me, and I'll be explaining that. But again, no one will be emailing you through a personal account. Does anybody else have anything for open forum? Senator Rosamelia.
So you mentioned that the capstone funding is kind of low, and it needs to be brought up a little bit.
Non-existent. That's the problem.
Non-existent.
Non-existent.
So you should make before you take the next step, probably do the first step first, to at least get some money allocated there.
Yeah,
if we can.
That's what we got to figure out. Where's the money coming from? We don't know.
But I can recommend, I'm not sure who it is at this table, but if you could work with our audience member on a resolution, the Academic Affairs and Technology Chair, to push and advocate for this.
I think next semester will be very important because that's when people start buying stuff.
Yeah, so. Anything else for open forum? Senator Rosamelia.
Are usually capstones at the end of the spring semester?
I'm just gonna quickly point of order. I think this is. I think we can have this privately. We just want to make sure that we have some time to discuss other issues. I do understand that this is.
I just want to make sure that we had a plan. That's the.
Yeah,
going
we
back
do
to
have
what
a
we
plan.
Want. We have a plan. That's all I want.
Senator Rosamelia, not to cut you off, I appreciate your concern and your questions, but I think if Senator Self would be so kind to invite both of you to his next meeting, that would be a better option.
All right.
Is there anything else for open forum? I think our audience member Jen Adams has some.
Yeah.
I apologize. I was forced by another student, so I wanted to listen to his concern.
I didn't want to take more of your time because I know your meeting's running late. I love coming to your meetings. I want to commend you for a great fall and wish you all a wonderful holiday. And Megan knows, and some of you know, I have a very hard time keeping my mouth shut, which is why I have a hard time coming to Senate. But I do want to say, in regard to your last bill, for all of our departments on campus, we have our own department, and we have the opportunity to engage in a SUNY group related to our function. So there is a housing directors group that I go to 4 times a year. Don't have to, but it's really important to be seen at these things, especially when you're one of the smaller campuses like SUNY Poly. You can really get lost in the opinions of some of the bigger campuses. Megan has a group like it with the conduct officers. There's one like that for student activities. And you can also be an officer. Though our organizations all have officers like you do and SUNY SA. And if I decide as a director or a VP, I want to be the president of the SUNY Housing Officers Group, it creates instant influence at SUNY Central for SUNY Poly. And it's a tremendous time commitment. And I can't do that unless my team knows that me taking on that role means a little more work for them. But they do it and encourage me to do it because it gets us so much clout and influence. So I'm really so glad that you did not cut off opportunities for your leadership team to be part of SUNY SA, because it's more political there times 1,000 than here at your campus level, and it's just really important there are good people there. So I just wanted to say I think that was a great vote. I can't say that before you vote, but I think I can say it after you vote. Glad that turned out that way. I think it's an important place for you to be. Thank you for all of your hard work. Be kind to each other and have a wonderful holiday.
Pro tem fees. Do I have a second? Senator Self. Does anybody? I mean, okay. Does anybody oppose unanimous consent? So you can't. But okay, so seeing opposition, we'll move on to voting. All who approve. We're ending the meeting. All who approve to end the meeting at what? If you have something for open forum.
Oh, good luck on finals.
Okay. So, all who approve adjourning. All right. See, all who oppose, and all who abstain. This motion passes 2, 4, 5, 5, 2, 502. We have adjourned at 2:17.